Welcome back to season 3 of the Home and Life Design Summit, where we are having amazing conversations with awakened leaders about embodying art and beauty to create more joy. I am your host, Fallon Jordan, and I have the beautiful Jewels Arnes here. Thank you so much for being here, Jules.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Me too. And I mean, you really do embody beauty, like just all the things about your work. And I'm just really grateful that you stepped into your power, which it sounds like at a very young age. Would you love to share how all this amazing magic got started for you?
Yeah, it did start at a young age. So I feel like I've always been kind of awake. I can remember my first awakening was that not everybody is awake. And that was actually it was actually really traumatic for me.
You don't
And
even.
I know, right? And so as I got older, I learned to kind of dumb it down a little bit with alcohol. And that kind of turned around and got me kicked out of the house at a really young age. I left the house at 16. And so I decided that I must be an alcoholic. So I went to AA, and it was the best thing I could have ever done because I met my first mentor there. She saw that I had the gift of seeing. She was a healer, and she took me under her wing and started teaching me how to read energy. And that was the end for me. It was I was all in because it was everything that I knew I was but didn't know what it was. And from there I worked with a Lakota medicine woman for 6 years, and I just got really lucky to have some really high level masters just drop into my lap where I got to work with them. And it was probably about maybe 15 years ago that I finally realized the only way I was going to keep going was to stop going under other people that were teaching me and step into that place where I really just started listening to my inner guidance and that intelligence within me. And here I am, like all those years later, is I'm very much attuned to that. I still to this day don't listen to podcasts. I don't listen to YouTube. I don't read books. The only things I read are things that the intelligence tells me to read. And when I say that, I mean my own inner guidance. I call it the intelligence because
Yeah,
it pretty much is an intelligence.
absolutely. Yeah. And I've been hearing a lot of heart intelligence lately. Do you want to speak to that?
Hmm. So, for me, the heart is kind of the gateway to the quantum body, is what I call it. But I feel like from there, we're really going even beyond the heart. Like we're going into a quantum system that our body is holding, and that system is activated through dormant DNA. And we call it decoding molecular technology, but it is using the frequency of DMT, which is 963, that is organically holding intelligence. If you look up on Google, it'll tell you that the frequency of 963 is source intelligence or universal intelligence. And that frequency is our innate being. And when we start to turn that on, our body starts to identify as a quantum field itself. And we call it the quantum body.
That is amazing. I love that. And I actually have like my friend gave me a little 963 energy card that he like charged for me.
I
So
love.
I love that. And I love numbers. Like I totally geek out on numbers. I'm sure there's people listening who love that stuff. So I really appreciate you sharing the science behind that. And definitely, as far as like the body, like would you say that there's parts of the body that like are a portal, or like how would you describe that?
For me, the body is multidimensional. And the only reason that we're having the experience of our body as form is because our consciousness is in reflection of it as form. I mean, this is all like quantum physics is already proven that, right? But as we start to ascend or as we start to reach higher levels of consciousness, we start to identify beyond form. But it's harder to teach our mind because we're so programmed and the reality that we're in is so programmed. And that's what my passion is to teach people how to hold consciousness in the abstract or the unknown, so that actually identifying in frequency becomes more real than identifying in form. And when that starts to happen, we really do start to identify in the multidimensional body. And that's when the magic happens, because we're no longer limited to what our bodies can do, because our bodies are so much more than what we're experiencing now.
100%. So when you are looking at a person and like you're looking at their energy or even a flower or grass or like anything, like, do you see it in colors? Like, how does it resonate with you? I feel like it's so different and so special.
For me, I see it as information. I've taught my, if you want to say this, but I've practiced to be able to see things through the intelligence. And so everything is like watching a movie. You're just watching it through what is that, versus it telling you what it is. You're seeing it through the intelligence. And I can actually show you an exercise of how it can be different. We can all play with it, because it's actually not that hard once you can see the subtle difference between identifying in what you're seeing in the frequency that it's at or through your programming, and then seeing it through the intelligence. And talking about beauty, when we start to practice looking at ourselves that way in the mirror, and we start to see what we are through the intelligence, everything changes, because we really do tap into how beautiful we are outside of what we've been told is beautiful.
Great. That is amazing. Yeah, I would love to go through that little exercise. That would be so
Okay,
fun.
let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, so everybody shut your eyes. Unless you're driving, you have to keep them open. Okay, so just shut your eyes and imagine a red rose. And then if you don't see, if you have like some other intuitive power that is, you can just sense it, feel it, whatever feels right. Okay, so now open your eyes. Were you able to see a red rose? Imagine one.
Yeah.
Okay, so now shake that out, and now shut your eyes and ask to see a red rose through the intelligence, or see a red rose through the intelligence of the creator. And notice how your body feels different.
Yeah.
Just
I feel like
notice.
my eyes are twitching like a million miles an hour.
Right. It's different, right? Because the intelligence is showing you what a rose is outside of what you're programmed to see a rose as. Now
Mhm.
you can open your eyes and you can practice seeing everything from that space.
That was amazing. I saw more of like a sunrise, like a sunshine. And it's so funny. I was so proud of myself that I was able to sneak away right before our interview to go grab something from the store. And the lady who checked me out, who was so kind and wonderful, her name was Rose.
That's my daughter's name too.
Love it so much. Like, God is so good. Like, it's so cool how things are connected. And I'm still like also processing. I'm sure some people listening, just because I come from the holistic mental health field, and like there aren't a lot of 16-year-olds to go to AA and like have this amazing experience. So I just wanted to like honor you for that, and just honor everyone who's listening to understand like there is a reason for everything, and there's always someone who has like a really cool story, and there's no reason why you, if you're listening to your divine guidance, that you can't just like step up to what spirit wants you to do.
Everything for me is the game, right? It's because this is the cool thing, is just like what we did. Another way of describing that is we can see everything through our programming, and we can have in and a lot of times, because we have things called mirror neurons, we'll actually meet the frequency of whatever it is that we're seeing. And so if you're watching a movie and it's negative, you're going to feel negative, right? Because you're matching the frequency of what it is. But because we're conscious beings and we have the ability to turn on that intelligence, there's always a third energy. In any reflection, there's a third energy, and that's the intelligence. And so, just like what we just did, so when I went to AA, yes, I was there having my little experience, but the whole time, I was just, because of the way that I am, I kept holding the space of that third frequency. And when we practice that, everything is magical. It doesn't matter what it is, because everything is something that we can receive information through the intelligence. And if we could just practice that just in our daily routines of just getting ready in the morning, because we are so mean to ourselves. When we look in the mirror, we're so mean. And if we could just look at ourselves through that way, talk about anti-aging. I mean, really, like that's like bringing out a beauty, because when you start to see yourself through the intelligence, your cells start to see through the intelligence. It's because your body is your consciousness. There isn't separation. It's only separate because we are in a reality of separation. But the truth is, it's not. And when we can do these little things and start to master that, and everything comes into alignment, we start to see that. I mean, I call it superpowers are real, right? Because we really are that powerful.
100%. And as you were saying this stuff the last minute, I feel like so hot right now. I was like, what would it be? I was thinking to myself, I was like, because I do some exercises where I look myself in the eye and say, like, I love you, I got you. What do you need today? And I was like, what if I started adding, like, I see you through intelligence. With that said, da 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 da. And like literally I feel on fire. My hands feel like little balls. Like
Love
the and
Well, I think that's the beginning. Anytime the body heats up, right? It's just a signal that, oh, there's something going on here.
yeah, I love that. So I would love to hear more about your routine because, you know, I had seen you, I was excited to talk to you. And then I go and I was looking at your bio and it's like, been doing vibrational healing for 30 years. And I'm like, I'm not great at math, but like, I don't know how that's really possible.
So, well, that one thing is that I started at a really young age. And, honestly, I did go through a process where my daily routine was a practice. It was very, very sacred. I have definitely got to a place where I'm kind of on the other side of it, where it's like my body already knows what to do. I don't have to tell it what to do anymore. But one of my favorite things, and this is where I really started, was that instead of seeing myself through the programming, I would do what we kept saying is like, okay, well, this is what I'm seeing, but what am I really? And as soon as you ask that question, that intelligence turns on, right? And then what do we have? We have consciousness. So consciousness is actually a tool that we're given to follow the intelligence of our innate being, which is when we ask a question. I call it the Google system. Like we're literally a human Google system. So when we ask a question, that specific frequency that's holding the answer will turn on in our bodies. Because it turns on through our dormant DNA, you could even say. And once our cells are holding that frequency, we use our consciousness to attune to what that frequency is saying. And we have intuition, which is how we use our consciousness to be able to hear it, see it, sense it, know it, whatever what intuition we're using. And from there, we have the experience again. And that's when we really start to master moving beyond programming. And you think about all the looping systems that we play out. And when we start to master that, we see just how programmed we are within the reality, and you start to break free from it, right? Then, okay, something as simple as a skincare routine just became the breaking of the illusion of so many things. And when that starts to happen, it just blows your mind. I love that we did
I am there. I love that. So with that said, I just want to hear a little bit more of just like how you describe beauty, like how you feel it in your body, like how you see it, like that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, if you actually look at the tree of life, a lot of times you'll see the word beauty and the heart chakra. So, beauty is the gateway to that frequency of 528, you could say, the love frequency, but it's not love in an oxytocin way. It's a very clean, pure state of love that doesn't fluctuate through things that are happening on the outside or through our programming. So for me, beauty, it is the frequency of 528. It is a frequency that we can hold for ourselves first. And when we learn to master having that frequency of love that isn't created in an emotion, but in a frequency for ourselves, then we can invite somebody else to be in reflection of that frequency. So, beauty is the first way that we can kind of interconnect into that intelligence through our own heart center. It has nothing to do with what we look like. It has, I mean, even honestly, when we start to identify in frequency, especially that, and frequency of 528 is actually not that hard to identify in because we all know what it is to love, right? But a lot of us are stuck in a looping cycle of love through oxytocin or through the chemical body, is what I call it, through our programming. What I love to teach is how to identify through frequency, because then there's no attachment. A frequency is a frequency. Nothing can change that frequency unless you change the way you're identifying in that frequency, right? But if you're actually identifying as the frequency itself, it can't fluctuate either. Then when we start to look at a sunset, we're seeing it through a frequency and there's no attachment. So it is kind of a weird thing because we don't really have the emotional response to the sunset, but we also only feel the frequency of love all the time. So which is better, that you feel frequency of love all the time, or that you see a sunset and you have an emotional response? I'm going to choose this one. And this is the quantum body. This is what we start to experience when we move into the quantum body.
That is amazing. So, coming from like the neuroscience world, like, talk about dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, like literally all the time. So, very briefly, how would you describe like basing your health and especially like the health of like your brain and how things are working that way to the way that you've seen it be helpful for you and, thousands of your clients?
What I love to teach is that if we are having an emotion, even if it's a good emotion, even if it is love, or it, obviously we're all going to have our dopamine moments, but trying to at least teach how to go from dopamine to serotonin. And what that means is that you're not looking for the immediate response, but an overall sense of happiness that you're choosing from instead of that quick fix.
Yeah.
But even all of that, everything that I just said is what I call the chemical body, because we're still choosing. If we're trying to create an emotion, or if an emotion is creating our choices, an emotion is always based in programming, because it's the body's way of releasing a chemical in order to get a response. But when we start to move into the quantum body, we actually start to identify in the frequency of those. We actually have coded oils that actually teach the body to move from the chemical or program body into the quantum body. And we have a class that teaches you how to hold these states consciously, because then you're actually choosing to create in a frequency, and you start to learn to identify in frequency over a chemical. And it's a very, in that sunset thing, or even the flower, that is the subtle difference. And just think of how you felt when you allowed the intelligence to show you the flower. When we allow the intelligence of our body to turn on and we start to identify in that over trying to imagine a flower, I mean, just do it again. Like, see which one feels better. This one feels so much better. And that's what I mean, this is basic human evolution. It literally is the next stage of human evolution, is to turn on the quantum body. You can actually get a degree in bioquantum biology now. It's a real thing that they're studying. And so it's exciting. I'm excited. Can you tell?
Yeah. And I'm curious because I knew you were talking about, your children and like at some point you'll be a grandma. I mean, how early can we teach this stuff?
I would say right away, like that. I mean, I started teaching my kids how to identify in frequency over emotion at a very, very young age. And even beyond that, I mean, it couldn't be as simple as, where am I choosing from? Am I choosing trying to create an emotion, or am I choosing an experience because I want to create an emotion of some sort? It could be safety, it could be excitement, it could be you name it, right? If we're just aware before we make a choice of where we're choosing from, that's everything. And so, well, what is on the other side of that is to be able to choose through the intelligence, or choose through the divine, choose through the creator, and that guidance system that we all have that's turning on in us. When we choose from there, there's no doubting, there's no regretting. It might be scary to stay in the choice, but that can be taught as well, because to keep our consciousness in a choice where we don't know what the outcome is going to be is scary, because we're primal beings. But when we start to turn on the quantum body, we move out of that primal experience and we learn how to hold consciousness in that space of the intelligence. And it's a very different experience.
That's amazing. And I'm just so grateful that you are a mom. And I know there are a lot of moms in the summit who are raising these beautiful beings who have these tools, and then they can teach their children and so forth. And that's just like the most important thing for me, is just, future generations having these tools, because we know that they work, and we know that they help people. And this, this is meant to be the new normal.
I absolutely love that. And gosh, and the kids coming in now are just, they're so high level, and they need to be approached from a high level space. I mean, really seeing them in the brilliance that they're holding is, they don't, it's just so funny. They just don't, you think about like how the school systems are teaching all these things. It's so funny because they just need to be told that they already know it.
Yeah.
It's like, "You already know this, just remember, and I'm gonna give you permission to remember. Like, go explore it."
I love that. Yeah, I'm going to be opening a spiritual school for kids. So stay tuned. We'll be learning all of the things. I would love to have you be a part of that.
I would love to. They're just so magical. I mean, they teach us more than we teach them, for sure.
100%. Well, I know the audience would love to hear a little bit more about your free gift, just because you have mentioned so many amazing things that you offer.
Beautiful. So yes, the free gift is the decoding molecular technology. It's the DMT facial exercises. So there's 12 different exercises that you can either just pick a couple and do them throughout the day, but each exercise is actually turning off an epigenetic code of aging, and it's putting the cells into a, like you could say, no space, no time. So if you can imagine doing these exercises on a daily basis, and you're doing it in a reflection, and you're kind of using those tools that we just used. But the other really cool thing about it is that when we teach ourselves to go into that no space, no time, and all the exercises are scalar frequency, so they're coded to hold that state of consciousness. Well, your consciousness is also a part of this. So you start to hold your consciousness in the exact frequency pattern that's activating in your cells. So they all work together to create an experience where you get to experience your innate being and who you are beyond your own programming.
That is amazing. And everyone listening can claim this amazing, basically an energetic facelift. Like, what's better than that? You can claim that by just clicking the link below and able to get into Jewels' world. She has so many, like the essential oils with like, how can you describe that one more time? Like, I just feel like everyone's going to want that.
Yeah, so those, you would go to bioquantumskincare.com. You know what? I'll just do a 50% off coupon. We can call it, we'll do the beauty one 50. So
Yay.
50. So the other one was Beauty 100 for the other course, and you'll have those links there. So we'll do Beauty 50. And so you go to bioquantumskincare.com and you'll go to the Evolution store, and you'll see them there. And so they're literally called dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and DMT, and they have the frequencies on them. And they're coded to bring you out of the chemical body into the quantum body.
That is amazing. And shout out to all my fellow brain nerds who are here listening. Like, this is the whole point of the summit, is like neuroscience, everything we know versus like what we don't know, which is so much more. And just, I mean, getting a facelift, like everything lifted, like everything better.
I love it.
Well, Well, I am so grateful for your time and your love and your energy and your beauty. And just thank you so much for being with us and doing the amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you. And thank you for just holding a beautiful reflection where we got to share all this fun stuff.
Yeah, that exercise about the intelligence in the rose was like mind blowing. And I can't wait to like just start doing that all the time.
Love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for everyone who is listening. You can claim Jewel's amazing free gift in the link below. And we will see you in the next conversation. Bye for now.